Hey guys, just gonna wait for some people to show up. It's a beautiful night. You guys, you know what? I'm gonna show you guys what I'm looking at right now while people are showing up. This is actually incredible. Just one second. Look at this. This is amazing. You got the moon. Ladies and gentlemen, here. I'm just gonna unplug for a second. This is what I see every evening from my balcony. What you're looking at is the neighborhood that's called. So I'm in the neighborhood that's called Abu Tor. What you're looking at, I think that's a neighborhood called Pat, which is just west of the neighborhood that's Katamon, Emek Rafaim, Katamon. So those hills, I guess, is Pat or San Simon, I think, if I'm not mistaken. And yeah, and then just west of there, I think if you go in that direction, you'll probably hit Bet Shemesh, if I'm not mistaken, just like southwest of here. So, ladies and gentlemen, the sun is setting, or has set, on Yerushalayim, but this is the view that you get. Gorgeous, just amazing. Look at the contrast of the colors you get. It's really incredible. It's really, really incredible. Well, let's get back to our regularly scheduled program. So it's like, let me plug in here on the balcony. Okay, so let me flip it around. There, yeah. Okay. I know you guys would rather look at the sunset than me, but I want to talk to you guys about a few things. So, I spoke to you guys, I believe it was Friday. Today's what, Sunday? Yeah. Spoke to you guys on Friday, and it was Erev Shabbat, just before Shabbat, and I spoke to you guys about a few things, and I mentioned for a few minutes I spoke to directly to all of the Orthodox Jews in America, and I kind of went on about the disconnect between what people are praying for in the diaspora and what they're doing, or their behavior, or kind of the lens which they see everything that's going on, which I don't even know if it's any lens whatsoever. Listen, I could be wrong. I could be underestimating my fellow brethren in America. But what I see is people are fast asleep. And I have this problem where what I do is I sometimes, in situations where I, for some reason, think that just because I'm learning something from a situation, or I'm internalizing something, or I'm experiencing growth, I feel like other people will as well, or the world will as well, right? Just because I'm, stuck in my apartment. Just one second, guys. Somebody is incessantly messaging me. I don't know why. Okay, I'll answer that later. Um, just because I'm stuck in my apartment, and I'm learning all of these things and internalizing all of these things, and you know I guess reflecting, and you know trying to change some things in my life. I assume that others are as well, you know, and and then I go and I talk to a friend of mine, or a few friends of mine in New York, and they tell me the following things. They tell me, Tzvi, I'm concerned. This is them saying, it's not me. They tell me I am concerned that, society here in America, they're not even talking about the Jewish community, they're talking about just society in general, will not have learned anything from this, that people are going to try to get back to the way they were, or continue the way that they were, and they want to get back to normal, or as I like to say, they want to turn the machines back on. And not only that, I have a friend who tells me, I'm really worried because now you're going to see kind of a repeat of what happened, during the plagues in like the 1300s and mid 1300s, where basically society blamed the Jews for the plague. In our case, I don't know if we will be necessarily be blamed for coronavirus, but we'll be blamed in some capacity, whether it's like, I don't know, the fact that we have funerals in our neighborhoods, or the fact that our neighborhoods, I don't know, the Jews, Orthodox Jews, were not following directives, even though the majority of the, I guess it makes sense that there's so many rabbis that passed away and big tzaddikim and big holy men, and they'll look at us and they'll say, "Oh, there they go again." Even though you understand that there's so many non-Jews and even just non-Jews who are also kind of like not practicing social distancing. Not everybody's following the rules, and all these people are walking around like, hey, we want to open up our business, we want to defy the laws. People, you see what's going on in Georgia, and people are basically valuing money over their lives. I understand that, it's important. It's important in your livelihood. You need to be able to pay the rent. You need to be able to pay your bills. I just saw a rant from this guy. He's a comedian, Vic DiBattista, and he said, and he was basically going off on all of the banks and all the lending institutions and all the credit card companies. He said, I don't understand. He's like, you guys want to give furlough to people 3 months, but he's like, yeah, but then they have to pay that anyway. He's like, why not just tack on another 3 months to their mortgage? You're gonna get the money anyway. Why are you making them pay like in 3 months what they're gonna owe cumulatively, what they weren't able to pay, as if they would have had that, as if somehow they magically came up with that salary, right? So he makes sense, right? So you get the feeling that people all over the country just want to get back to work, and they just want things to get back to normal, and they don't really care what the costs are. If they get corona, they get it. If they die, they die. If their relative dies, people around them, if they infect other people, who cares, as long as you get your cash, right? And they say, well, listen, look how many people are in depression. Look how many people are in, committing suicide because they can't pay the bills, or they lost their job, or whatever it is. And ladies and gentlemen, listen, I'll tell you something. This is the fundamental difference between Yaakov and Esav, between the Western world and the Jewish mindset and the Western. I'll say the Western mindset. The Western mindset bases their entire, I would say, the majority of their self-efficacy, their self-worth, and even their happiness, as it were, or what I call fleeting instant gratification, on their standing, material standing at any given time, right? The Jewish mindset, at least what the Jewish mindset should be, is you generate from within. You understand that Hashem put you on this earth for a purpose, and you understand that money is a fleeting thing. It comes and it goes. Money is not something that you necessarily, meaning it's not yours, right? It's something Hashem gave you, right? Obviously, you worked, you did your what's called the shtadlus, your physical work and your efforts and all these things. But at the end of the day, Hashem is the one that gave you the talents. He's the one that gave you the bracha to make the money. You could be in a situation where you just go all out and do this and do that and the other, not make any money, or you can be in a situation where you almost do nothing, not lift a finger and make all the money, right? We've seen it. We understand that to be a fact, right? And it's really a lot of it has to do with mazal and the bracha from Hashem, and also how you act in terms of, like, with respect to personal holiness and all these kind of things. That's a Jewish mindset, generating from within. Things come from within, they don't come from without. If you lose, I don't know, God forbid, your house or your money or your bank account, that is not a determining factor in your overall state of mind or being. Well, now you could say, well, listen, come on, man, like, what do you want from people? This is human nature, right? I get it is human nature. I'm also part of that, I also fall prey to these things, but at the same time, I'm just telling you guys, obviously you're gonna have these reactions. You're a human being, right? But at the end of the day, it's all about the mindset you should be striving for, or the mindset you should be working towards, right? Or the work that you should be doing, right? And that's really the fundamental difference between Yaakov and Esav, between the Jewish mindset and the West. And you see here in Israel, for example, right? Israel's not as wealthy of a country as America, right? The prime minister made really draconian rules at the beginning of this lockdown, and right now to the point where, this good part of the country is unemployed, but at the same time, not obviously not the majority, but the minority, obviously, but we're opening up the country slowly but surely. But people are not going nuts. They're not like throwing themselves off rooftops and killing themselves and whatever. They understand, why? Because they went through it before. They went through what's called, there was something called the tzena here, rationing. There was, tough economic times in the 80s and the 90s. There was intifadas. People are living for a different purpose here. They're living for a grander purpose. Even the people who are not necessarily, I don't know, religious or, these kind of hippy dippy people or, I don't know, seekers or whatever, people understand, like, you know, as we say in Hebrew, malasot, like, what are you going to do? You know? What are you going to do? Their whole being is not attached to physicality and you know, material standing and their material status and just status period. That's not what people here are striving for. So yeah, ladies and gentlemen, I mean, like that's what's happening in America. And I have a friend who basically expressed his concerns. He said, "Listen, we're going to be blamed for this. The Jewish people in America are going to be blamed for this, one way or another, some way, somehow. And it's not going to be the majority of Americans, but it's going to be a lot of people who are going to come out and they're going to say, look, see, and this is, it's interesting. A friend of mine posted a link about how, I forget his name, a Hasidic Jew was just hired as the deputy minister, not minister, deputy secretary of treasury, right? So this is basically the second highest position with respect to everything that's going on with the IRS, with taxes, basically anything to do with fiscal policy. And my friend wrote on the top, he said, Mazel Tov, wow, this is amazing. And I said, no, 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 no Mazel Tov, man, no Mazel Tov. I think we understand that as soon as a person like that gets hired as Secretary of Treasury, or we've had Jewish head of the Fed and stuff, this is this has got to be the worst time to be hired as secretary of any of these offices, anything to do with economics. Because if you're a Jewish person, if as soon as stuff hits the fan, ladies and gentlemen, and Trump can go around saying all he wants about we had the greatest economy ever and all these things. I'll tell you something, ladies and gentlemen, as a person who used to be in the markets and who follows economic trends and who follows CNBC and who follows all of these things, still, I can tell you that the underpinnings of our markets were very, very shaky. They did not have a leg to stand on, right? A lot of it was inflated over the past 10 years. A lot of it was, a lot of these companies, a lot of these banks, they were buying back their stock. There was a lot of stuff going on that wasn't real. Yes, a lot of the jobs were real, a lot of this was real, but a lot of things were not, right? And all they needed was something like a pandemic, which was basically a catalyst. It was just like the thing that broke the camel's back, and we see that the whole thing doesn't have a leg to stand on, right? And no, we're not going to get back to normal. The machines will not be turned back on. There's going to be a lot of hell to pay after this whole thing is done. We're going to see like people owing a lot. This whole thing is going to cascade. People owing a lot of money, a lot of entities owing a lot of money, a lot of entities not being able to pay their bills. The housing market. I mean, I really don't know what's going to be with the housing market, ladies and gentlemen. I really don't. I was just talking to a friend of mine who's in real estate in New York and New Jersey. You know, the governor of New Jersey just said, oh, landlords don't have to, what is it called? Tenants don't have to pay rent for 3 months, or landlords don't have to force their tenants to pay rent for 3 months, and they can use the tenant's security deposit to, you know, as a, what is it called? As a rent payment. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I got news for you. Some landlords take the security deposit and they spend it. Obviously they give it back at the end, but or they just let the tenant use the security deposit for the last. They just what is it called? They just eat the last month of rent, right? They just dismiss the last month's of rent. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the kind of stuff that's going on, and it's cascading throughout, you know, throughout the economic system, right? All the way down to the markets and all the way down to the last, to the last company, the last entity, as it were. And it's not going to be a pretty picture. People think, oh, okay, we have these stimulus checks that came in. We have all the stimulus that was, the bailouts that were given to the banks. I hate to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, unless some kind of economic miracle happens, like, I don't know, some new industry comes out and it's just booming right out of the gates, and some, I don't know, new source of infinite energy, or I really don't know what. I really don't. Some new, like we had a .com boom 20 years ago or 25 years ago. Some new thing comes out and it just gives everybody a job. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, again, if I'm a Jewish person hired in one of these positions, the Treasury or the Fed or anything to do, Secretary of this or that and the other, I'm not excited. And I'm also not excited as a person looking on and, cheering on from the sidelines. I would not be cheering. I really wouldn't. Yeah, so my friend, when I speak to him, he tells me, a lot of stuff's going to start happening here, especially in the New York area. And it's interesting, I'll tell you something, guys. I want to say that it falls in line with what I said yesterday about Jews, the disconnect between Jews in America, what they pray for and what they're actually doing, with respect to Israel, with respect to the Torah. Um, but it's going to come a point where, and I was just telling a friend of mine today that history doesn't really care about your planning and your kind of calculations and all the things that you have going on. Sometimes you just got to pack your stuff and you got to go. And I really hope it doesn't come to that. I was watching a special today on YouTube. It was covering all the stuff that's going on with anti-Semitism and how people in particularly the neighborhood of Muncie and also in Brooklyn are getting trained in firearms, training. And unfortunately, in the state of New York, especially in the city of New York, it's virtually impossible to get a gun, to get a carry permit, right? Um, it's you can get one if you are part of a synagogue, to have one in the synagogue, right? But that's also very, very difficult, ladies and gentlemen. So basically, at the end of the day, we've come to the situation where we basically cannot rely on the government to help us, even though we have something called, or in the States, you have something called the Second Amendment, but that's federal. But on a what's it called? On a second, somebody's messaging me. On a state level, you go state by state, right? Some states, it's you can go to Pennsylvania, just go next door to Jersey and get a gun. But once you step in Jersey, once you step in New York, yeah, party's over, ladies and gentlemen. Party is over. Um, so that's really the story, and this is what Jews are doing. And it's like I'm wondering, like, is it really gonna help you? You know, is it really, really, really gonna help you, ladies and gentlemen? Not to say that again, like in Israel, we don't have our problems. I told you with the government and all these things that are happening, but like at the end of the day, it's ours. Would you let as I always say, would you rather live in someone else's what than your own? You know, that's really the choice at this point. You want to live in someone else's shit, or you want to live in your own shit. As shit as it is. I mean, that's really the choice. I'm not trying to be like pessimistic. I'm just giving you the reality here. Like and we're living. With that said, we're living in very special times. For the first time, I think there are more Jews in Israel than there are in America. We're coming up on the moment where there will be more Jews in Israel than there are in the diaspora as a whole, that's already kind of like the one of the activators or one of the triggers for the Mashiach, like automatically. A lot of incredible things are happening, ladies and gentlemen. We're God willing about to annex the Judea and Samaria, where I do business with the wineries. God willing. The wineries, as predicted by our prophets, as foretold by our prophets, the wineries are, where the vineyards are growing, and every day there's a new winery popping up in Israel. I think there's about 400 wineries, maybe more, whether you're talking about an industrial size or a boutique or slightly bigger than boutique, or I don't know, what's called garagiste garage, and then you got a homemade, and you got a guy in his house making, I don't know, 10 bottles a day or something like that, or a year. But this was foretold by our prophets that people will come back, they rebuild the vineyards, they rebuild the cities, and yeah, it's happening, ladies and gentlemen. And we have Jerusalem. Very soon we're gonna have. First of all, we're gonna have Yom Ha'atzmaut. Then we're gonna have. Well, first of all, Yom HaZikaron, then Yom Ha'atzmaut. Then we're gonna have Jerusalem Day, where we celebrate the recapturing of Jerusalem in 1967. Actually, I forgot Lag BaOmer. We're gonna have that. You know, I mean, I spent last Tisha B'av in Jerusalem for the first time in like 7 years. It was one of the, I would say, the most profound experiences of my life, ladies and gentlemen. In terms of like, it was so deep, it was so powerful, it cut so deep. It was just, the whole thing was, the only word I can think of is palpable. And I really, really felt that that was going to be the last Tisha B'av we were going to have in Jerusalem without the temple. And I hope what I'm saying is not just a cute dream, but it might become just a reality, or might just become a reality. If not this year, maybe the following year. Who knows? Maybe Hashem is preparing us for something, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, as of now, what I realize is, no matter whether we like it or not, no matter whether we've internalized everything or not, Hashem is rewiring our brains. He's rewiring our consciousness. You know, this is what's happening, and so many special things are happening here, and it's almost like people, again, going back to people in the Orthodox community in America, the Jewish community, not just Orthodox, just Jews in general. I have a friend who just wrote to me, there's a very, very slow, I hate to use the word Holocaust, but there's a very, very, very slow and silent Holocaust happening in America, which is, as we know, a simulation and intermarriage, right? And you might say, oh, Tzvi, that sounds so, xenophobic, racist, whatever, blah, blah. Ladies and gentlemen, I mean, like, this is what I'm telling you, I'm giving you reality and history, statistics. This is what we were doing in Germany before what happened. This is exactly what was happening in Germany. And now we're doing it yet again, we're doing it in America. Not all of us, like 75%, 80% of us are doing it again. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know. It's like, it's incredible to me, like how the Jewish people seem to repeat the same ancient themes over, and you want to talk about the Torah as an ancient document and it's outdated and this, that. Ladies and gentlemen, we're repeating the same ancient themes over and over and over and over again. It's literally, Jewish history is a broken vinyl record that skips. It's not cracked. It's just playing the same track over and over, and it just skips, and then it skips again to the same, and it's just the same track over and over. It's just the same, different, what I call a different remix, as a DJ. It's sometimes there's a remix. Sometimes you get Spain, you get Germany, you get Poland and Ukraine and Russia, and I don't know, Iraq, and now we have America. It just goes on and on and on and on, ladies and gentlemen. But, our sages explained that the last gullus would be this gullus, the one in America, which is basically a combination of all the gulluses, which is a combination of, Bavel, Rome, Babylon, Rome, Greece, and Persia, right? And it's actually ironically called the gullus of Ishmael, the Ishmaelite gullus, because obviously we see that Ishmael is at least trying to take over the world with Al Qaeda and ISIS, Muslim Brotherhood and Islamists and the Palestinian movement and BDS and all these things. They're basically coming and they're saying, we own the world. We own Europe. We're going to take over America from within. We technically own Israel. It's a gullus. It's a form of exile. It's an Ishmaelite exile, but it's actually the combination of all the four previous ones combined. And America's part of it as well, ladies and gentlemen. And if you don't see that, what I'm saying right now, every rabbi worth of salt is saying that. Even if he's not saying it, if you come to him and say this to him, he'll agree with you, because we understand that to be from the Zohar, from the Talmud, from all these different sources. Speaking of the Talmud, ladies and gentlemen, the Talmud says before the Mashiach, we're going to see kids be huspadik with their parents. in not a good way. I see it first and foremost, ladies and gentlemen. This is what's happening. We're venerating the youth, and we are denigrating, uh, people who are older and wiser. We're denigrating age. We're practicing ageism in our society. Listen, I can go on and on, and to keep giving you signs of what's happening, but I think you get the point. And yeah, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not saying this to sit around and like personally judge you guys. I'm saying it because I'm very concerned. It's really out of love. It's out of concern. It's really out of Ahavat Israel, love for my fellow Jews. You know, we forget Jewish history. A lot of Jews just simply don't know Jewish history. Just like people in Israel here. I was just listening to a podcast from Im Tirtzu, this organization, and they say, they take people to Hebron. The guy said he's surprised how many Israelis don't know the history of, you know, their country, or the history of Jewish history, or the history of Judaism or Torah. A lot of people just don't know anything, or they think they know, and they don't know squat, you know. And the world is looking to us to know, because if we don't know, then what the heck are we doing here? What are we doing in Israel? We might as well be called occupiers and, usurpers and whatever. The fake Jews and what is it? They call it Hazars and I don't know. Any name you can think of, which is obviously nonsense, but this is how a majority of the world perceives us. A good part of the world, not majority, but a good amount of people perceive us this way, until they come here and they see it for themselves. And even then, who knows, So, I say what I say, ladies and gentlemen, just because I'm concerned. I'm really concerned. And I really hope this whole thing is going to wake people up. And I really hope it doesn't have to get to the point where everything just collapses and we get blamed for it again and again and again, as always. And, whether we want to or not, we're going to be forced to pack our bags and leave. Not like a mensch, but like like a schlepper. That's really at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, that's really where we're at in history. We can either come like a mensch, and I don't mean like a mensch with thousands of dollars and bazillions of dollars. I mean like a mensch, meaning of your volition, of your choice. Even if you come here with $0 in your bank account, but you came here because you wanted to come here, like a mensch. Not because the Cossacks and these guys and these guys and these guys rose up and blamed you for this, that, and the other, and just kicked you out with a boot, with a jackboot, or told you if you don't leave, we're just gonna kill you. We're gonna drown you in the Atlantic and the Pacific, and that's it. As my friends are writing, unfortunately, won't be there. Will be a war, Gog and Magog. That's the issue. Most people want to go back to the sedated life of BS. Well, listen, Gog and Magog. A lot of people saying Gog and Magog is now. The Bible Trevor said we already had Gog and Magog, and the Gog and Magog is a spiritual war. It could be what we're experiencing now with coronavirus. I really hope it doesn't get to. I mean, last time we had the Spanish flu was 100 years ago. Then the world went to war. You see what's going on today with Russia and Iran. They're both suffering because of the oil prices, and you know what happens to a wounded animal economically. They go to war. They provoke war. Iran in particular. I really hope again it doesn't come to that, but. Yeah, the only thing one can hope for is, right now they're trying to get Trump out, and a lot of people don't want Trump to be president, and because they know that he's not gonna take these people laying down. But at the same time, who knows? Hopefully this doesn't end in a violent way, ladies and gentlemen. But again, I speak to the Jews, both Orthodox and secular. Again, you could either come here as a mensch or as a schlepper. It's not really, I heard Harav saying this is a plague, but it's not the war. There will be a one between nations like China and USA. Maybe there are morons. Listen, my friend, what you're saying is one of the many possibilities, and we have a choice. We can do tshuva and avoid that stuff, or we cannot do tshuva and have what you're describing, God forbid. Yeah. Yeah, you're saying people are not waking up. I hope they do. Listen, I really hope they do. And if they don't, I hope something happens very quickly to where they'll wake up. If they don't wake up after this, they'll wake up, within 2 or 3 months or whatever, in a short period of time. And I hope that I think as Rabbi Kessin says it, he says that it's something that Hashem is doing very quickly in a very short period of time. You know, kind of like start to finish, and then people will wake up, and it'll all be okay. And yeah, we'll see what happens. We will see what happens. Yeah, listen, they want to worship the dollar. Well, when the dollar is not even there to worship, we'll see what they're going to worship. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'll talk to you soon.